Find more questions and study at your own pace on our website. The link will be in the description. Let's get started. Question 1. You plan to deploy several Azure virtual machines that will run Windows Server 2019 in a virtual machine scale set by using an Azure Resource Manager template. You need to ensure that NGINX is available on all the virtual machines after they are deployed. What should you use? Option A, the Publish as VM DSC configuration template. Option B, Azure Application Insights. Option C, a desired state configuration extension. Option D, Azure AD Application Proxy. The answer is Option C. To ensure that NGINX is available on all Azure virtual machines in a virtual machine scale set, you should use a desired state configuration extension. The DSC extension allows you to define and automate the configuration of software, environments, and resources. By using DSC, you can specify that NGINX should be installed and configured on each virtual machine, ensuring consistency across the scale set. Question 2. You need to deploy an Azure virtual machine scale set that contains 5 instances as quickly as possible. What should you do? Option A, deploy 5 virtual machines. Modify the availability zone settings for each virtual machine. Option B, deploy 5 virtual machines. Modify the size setting for each virtual machine. Option C, deploy 1 virtual machine scale set that is set to VM orchestration mode. Option D, deploy 1 virtual machine scale set that is set to scale set VM orchestration mode. The answer is Option D. To deploy an Azure virtual machine scale set quickly and effectively, the best approach is to use a virtual machine scale set to scale set VM orchestration mode. This option allows Azure to handle the creation and management of the virtual machine instances automatically based on predefined configurations. This is more efficient than deploying individual virtual machines and offers streamlined scaling and management. Question 3. You need to configure an Azure web app named contoso.azurewebsites.net to host www.contoso.com. What should you do first? Option A, create a records named www.contoso.com and asuid.contoso.com. Option B, create a TXT record named asuid that contains the domain verification ID. Option C, create a CNAME record named asuid that contains the domain verification ID. Option D, create a TXT record named www.contoso.com that has a value of contoso.azurewebsites.net. The answer is Option B. To configure an Azure web app to host a custom domain like www.contoso.com, the first step involves verifying ownership of the domain. This is done by creating a TXT record named asuid at your domain registrar, with the value set to the domain verification ID provided by Azure. This step is necessary to prove that you own the domain before you can point it to your Azure web app. Question 4. You have 5 Azure virtual machines that run Windows Server 2016. The virtual machines are configured as web servers. You have an Azure load balancer named LB1 that provides load balancing services for the virtual machines. You need to ensure that visitors are serviced by the same web server for each request. What should you configure? Option A, floating IP to disabled. Option B, idle timeout to 20. Option C, a health probe. Option D, session persistence to client IP. The answer is Option D. To ensure that visitors are serviced by the same web server for each request, you need to configure session persistence to client IP. Session persistence, also known as sticky sessions, ensures that all requests from a client during a session are sent to the same server. Question 5. You have an Azure subscription named Subscription 1. You have 5 terabytes of data that you need to transfer to Subscription 1. You plan to use an Azure import/export job. What can you use as the destination of the imported data? Option A, Azure Blob Storage. Option B, Azure Data Lake Store. Option C, Azure SQL Database. Option D, a virtual machine. The answer is Option A, Azure Import-Export service is designed for transferring large amounts of data to and from Azure Blob Storage and Azure Files by shipping disk drives to an Azure data center. Therefore, you can use Azure Blob Storage as the destination for the imported data. That's all for today's video. Don't forget to check out our website where you can find more questions for this exam. The link will be in the description. Thank you for watching and good luck on your exams.